Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very warm greeting I bid to our respectful lecturer, Dr. Rosli Ahmad, and fellow friends. So today, I will present on behalf of my group, for my part, for the requirement of the subject ABD 8043, Career Counseling and Development. So, the jobs that has been chosen to present today is a pharmacist at Pharmaniaga Berhad, a government-linked company. So I will present to you about a career planning for a staff aged 35 years old working at this company. Okay, what should we know about the government-linked company and government-linked investment company? So there are two different kind of company. GLC is also referred to enterprises that have the government as the majority shareholder, either directly or indirectly via government-linked investment companies, GLC. So as you can see in the picture shown here, examples of GLIC company is such as Ministry of Finance, Khazanah Nasional, EPF, Tabung Haji, KWAP, Koperasi Angkatan Tentera, and PNB, where the JLC, for example, is Tenaga Nasional Berhad, RHB Bank, Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad Holdings, Afin Banks, and Maybanks. So the government funding for GLC are allocated through government-linked investment companies that have been explained just now. Okay, the GLC that I've choose to discuss today is the Pharmaniaga Berhad. So this company is directly owned by as subsidiaries company by both State Holding Berhad, a GLC, and indirectly owned by the Armed Forces Fund Board or Lembaga Tabung Angkatan Tentera. It's simply put as LTAT, a GLIC company. So Pharmaniaga Berhad is an investment holding company which provides an integrated healthcare solution with a wide spectrum of business which includes logistics and distribution, manufacturing of generic pharmaceutical, sales and marketing, regulatory affairs, distribution of medical products and hospital equipment, as well as community pharmacy. So this company has been established since 1998 and registered in Malaysia. It's currently one of the leading Malaysia pharmaceutical groups and government-linked company, GLIC. So as you can see on the picture, Pharmaniaga is indirectly owned by GLIC, which is LTAT, and directly owned by a GLC, which is a both state holding Berhad. So let us talk about the career planning. So what is career planning? It's the process of discovering educational, training, and professional opportunities that match with personal interests, passions, and goals. There are 6 stages of career planning process. The first step is just exploration and assessment. The second step is career research. The third step is exploration and experimentation. Step 4, decision making and career selection. Step 5, final planning and action. And the last step is job search and acceptance. So it is very important to understand the individual cultural context that may influence an individual worldview. The cultural context surrounds the entire career planning and includes the cultural heritage and life experiences. So this process can be done by a person or can be guided through a process of career counseling. So how about the career transition for a person at the age of 35 years old in pharmaceutical industry? So 35 years old is at the stage of young adulthood, and the pharmaceutical industry is very competitive, fast, and constantly evolving. So a middle-aged person can find this field with a fun and exciting marketing careers. A pharmaceutical marketing job can entail product and service development, research, communication, project sales program, customer relation, and event coordination. Educating, communicating, and informing prospect and client is the key in the marketing role. So industrial pharmacy appeals to those who are technically minded or enterprising. The pharmaceutical manufacturing industry in Malaysia has had steady expansion throughout the years, and pharmacists are in high demand. So Malaysia is presently the world's leading producer of certified halal medication. So actually, as a pharmacist, there are a lot of opportunities to venture in pharmaceutical industry. The following picture shown on this slide is the sixth domain of the Occupational Information Network content model, which has been developed by Mumford and Peterson in 1991. So there are six domains in the ONET content model that can be used as a framework to describe a job requirement characteristic. So in order for a person to plan a career or make a career transition, they can use this content model as a reference to make a career planning. The next slide is an example of the job vacancy as a pharmacist post in Pharmaniaga Berhad. So this is how the job vacancy advertisement look like. So the company have listed the post name, location, number of vacancy, responsibilities, and requirement, which can be used as a reference for a candidate to apply. So for this job, the 10 characteristic requirement that I've chosen based on the 6 domain are the following shown on the screen. So for the worker characteristic, the characteristics chosen is the abilities, work style, and occupational interest. So for this kind of job description, there are certain abilities and work style are required to apply for this post. And the occupational interest based on Holland Code specifically is investigative, conventional, and social personality type of person. Whereas for the worker requirement, there are certain knowledge, basic skill, and education needed in order to apply for this job. Specifically for the knowledge, a person should have good knowledge in chemistry, biology, mathematics, as well as in business administration. Whereas for the basic skill includes uh, basic skill include persuasion, speaking skill, active listening, negotiation, social perception, reading comprehension, service orientation, coordination, active learning, complex problem, and so on. So in order to apply for this job, a person should at least have a bachelor in pharmacy or professional degree in pharmacy or doctoral degree in pharmacy. For the experience requirement, a candidate should also have who should hold a license or being registered with the Pharmacy Board of Malaysia. And for the occupational requirement, there are several detailed work activities listed out as shown in the job vacancy example. For the workforce characteristic is the wages and the salary. So for this post, the average salary and wages is around 7,000 to 8,000 per month. And the occupational specific information is the specific task assigned for this post. So we have come to the conclusion part. So a career transition for a person at the age of 35 years old with a selected requirement as per discussed is possible for a post as a pharmacist at the Pharmacist Berhad, which is a government-linked company. So career decision or transition should have a proper career planning. So in this process, it should be started by evaluating the intention wisely or by taking an advice or guide from a career counselor on how to switch the jobs or switch careers. Finally, learn to create a transition plan to ensure a successful career switch after considering all the influencing factors. So the sixth domain of the Occupational Information Network or ONET content model discussed in this presentation could provide a framework of required characteristics for the specific career as a reference. Proper list of short and long-term goals to achieve before reaching the final career goal is also a mandatory. This list should include all the occupational, educational, and training goals required to pursue the chosen career path. The barrier to reaching those goals should also be considered and how to plan to overcome them. And last but not least, career counselor can also utilize this specific career information to guide clients on choosing and making a career decision or transition. That's all from my presentation. This is the reference that I've used to prepare this presentation. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sareh, for the opening and very good explanation just now. So, without further ado, I will continue on my topic, which is characteristic requirements from six special requirements to produce an individual in the career future of jobs survey 2020 field. So, robotic engineering is a field that is expected to expand for many years to come. Robotics is a diverse industry that requires various people to complete the task, and it's a new field in which private manufacturers, toy makers, and military, and some of government research organization are all interested. So the robotic engineering job market will evolve as society becomes increasingly reliant on technology. As a result, in this presentation, we choose robotic engineering from the Career Future of Jobs Survey 2020 to develop a person in this sector for this work. So, okay, let's talk about the robotic engineering from the Career Future Jobs Survey 2020. I will explain the first five characteristics of robotic engineering from the Career Future Jobs 2020. And for the remaining five characteristics, will be explained by my next group member, who is Puan Rosma after this. So the first characteristic needed by someone to become a robotic engineer in the future is that the person must have investigative characteristic. People in this group frequently read and research a particular subject to solve an issue. They use their curiosity to lead them to seek out how to make something that works even better and figure out how to make robots move most effectively. Robotics engineer can spend hours on the computer, putting concept to the test and coming up with new ways to think about how robots move and even think. Okay, now we look at the second characteristic on robotic engineer. individual that fit into this group seek practical solution to problems. They need to be realistic. They must be able to see the large picture, imagine a variety of solutions, and then test and experiment to narrow down the option. A successful robotic engineer must have the confidence to stand behind the solution they have built and refined. So the third one is attention to detail. Because they solve problems, there is likely the most valued skill in robotic engineer. They must learn to be precise and pay more attention to detail. This is exceptionally crucial for programming robots and ensuring the robotic components and mechanism fit together correctly. When writing, operating, troubleshooting, and maintenance documentation for their robotic equipment and machines, they must pay close attention to detail, and they also must be able to locate and organize all relevant data and effectively apply it. So the next one is adaptability. When people first begin employing various tools in prehistoric times, they also felt the need for a mechanism that would allow them to move large objects with minimal effort. So a good robotic engineer must able to comprehend how all of these systems interact and is familiar with the theory that underpins them all. For example, if an automaker is about to release a new model, robotics must be able to change their machine to meet the new vehicle's size and characteristics. So the most successful robotic engineer in the future will most likely be those who can adapt and come up with new ways to make robotics and human can operate together safely, of course. So the last one from my part is flexibility. Flexibility allows for changes in needs or constraint and the capacity to quickly and efficiently adjust to those changes. Flexibility stimulates curiosity and discovery of new options and is still for both work style and maybe mental character. Cognitive flexibility was another relevant and in demand robotics ability. If machines, for example, for particular situation, if a machine requires adjustment, so robotic engineers can guarantee that the required upgrades or alteration are implemented. I think um, I think that's all from my part for now. So I would like to invite my next group member, who is Wan Rosma, to continue uh, our group presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you Mr. Hamad for the early presentation. So my name is Rosmawati binti Mohidin, metric number 3211012. So I want to continue 5 characteristics of robotic engineer. So and then active learning refer to knowledge. So robotic engineer having a good level of reading comprehension and a group of the learning strategies that work for your personality will help you to learn new thing quickly and easily when need arise. robotic engineer, they must have to ability to read, study and understand. Robotic is an essential quality, and as a robotic engineer, they must have a urge to learn new concept. Robotic engineer must have analytical thinking, refer to skill. So the part of analytical thinking is critical thinking. Critical thinking is using logic and reasoning to identify the strength or weakness of alternative solution, conclusion, or approach to problem. And they see more occupation relate to this skill. Skill in analytic thinking will allow to analyze the problem from various angles. And the next, active listening. Active listening is giving full attention to what other people are saying, talking, time to understand the point being made, asking question as appropriate and not interrupting at inappropriate times. See more occupational relate to this skill. And the next, they must have a complex problem solving. What is a complex problem solving? They must have a skill to identifying complex problem and reviewing relate information to develop and evaluate option and implement solution. Okay, so and then they must have judgment and decision making, more to considering the relative cost and benefit of potential action to choose the most appropriate one. And then they must have a skill to monitoring or assessing performance in robotic engineer, so there can be make improvement or take corrective action. So the next part, characteristic of robotic engineer, they must have a education level with specific subject. So the subject is must focus on engineering and technology. They must have knowledge of the practical application of engineering science and technology. This include applying principal technique, procedure and equipment to the design and production of various goods and service. Okay, and the next part is must have a design. So design focus on knowledge, technique about the tool and principle involved in production of precision technical plan, blueprint, drawing and model. And the next is focus on computer and electronic. The knowledge of circuit board, processor, chip, electronic equipment and computer hardware and software, including application and programming. And the next one, they must competent on mathematics. So the knowledge of arithmetic, algebra, geometry, calculus, statistics and their application. So the next one is focus on mechanical. So mechanical is knowledge of machine and tools, including their design, use, repair and maintenance. And the last one is focus on geometry. So geometry is a good grasp of particularly important for understanding topic like kinematic and technical drawing, which is they're likely to use a lot of in career event, sketching and system on the back of the napkin. Okay, robotic engineer must have interpersonal and leadership skill. So they must have a decision making because robotic is full of choice and there is almost never one correct solution. They also have judgment and decision making are essential to make the most of your position, and the critical thinking skill will help to use logic and reasoning to balance their strength and weakness of each solution. And they must have a good communication. Robotic engineer must have good robotics are a channel of communication between the different discipline. They also have being able to use your speaking and writing skill effectively is important, and they must have a good instructing skill a bonus. And the last one is robotic engineer must have able to working on a team. So robotic is largely technical work, and but certain soft skill are beneficial, and they have being a team player is essential, and those entering this field should have an aptitude for mathematics, psychic, chemistry and electronic, and they must be able to communicate their idea effectively. For the summary of the robotic engineer, we look at the pros and contra of being robotic engineer. And the pro is opportunity to find work in many industry. Robotic engineer also good starting salary, and the job enable to be creative and keep with the latest technology. And the cons is focus on pleasure. Robotic engineer have a pressure to meet deadline, standard and client design needs, and also postgraduate education in the robotic engineer field is needed to add one in this field. Okay, in the conclusion is robotic engineer are those who make any exciting system smarter, and the career is has to work in a hybrid manner, meeting an ever increasing need in a industry where there are complexity of project is rising and resources are very limited. Therefore, graduate of this discipline are sought after for management position as well because of their diverse skill and overall knowledge of state of the art technology in this country. In the country that the best of implementation of major robotic engineering in 2001 in Singapore. Singapore is known as a global financial hub, and in the Malaysian, Monash University is among the universities that produce graduate with ability in robotic engineering. In addition to responsibility and effective global citizen, leader in their chosen profession or society and large. And the robotic engineer is a career opportunity for this field are also in high demand for the future, spanning mechanical, electrical and computer engineering, which mean jobs are available in almost every industry. So thank you from our group. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.